In the quiet hum of the xenobiology wing aboard the deep space research vessel, Orion Lisa watched the alien woman through the reinforced glass. Her name was Kyla, though Lisa had only learned it by accident when the translation device glitched. During a routine scan, Kayla was tall, slender, with skin like polished obsidian that shimmered faintly under the lab lights. Her eyes were large and golden, unblinking for long stretches, and her long, segmented tail coiled and uncoiled slowly behind her like a restless thought. For 3 weeks, Lisa had been assigned to monitor Kayla's behavior. The alien had been found drifting near a derelict ship at the edge of known space, unconscious but alive. No one knew her species, her origin, or why. She was alone. The crew treated her with cautious distance, but Lisa, ever curious, volunteered to be her primary observer. She believed understanding began with presence, not protocol. Kayla never spoke. She barely moved. She ate only when food was placed before her, and even then she did so with mechanical precision. The other scientists whispered that she was broken or dangerous, or both. They said her silence was hostility. Lisa wasn't so sure. Every morning, Lisa entered the observation room with a small tray water nutrient paste and once a single white flower she'd grown in the ship's hydroponic bay. She'd place it gently on the table inside Kayla's chamber and sit cross-legged on the floor just outside the glass, watching. She never forced interaction. She simply existed nearby like a quiet companion. At first, Kayla ignored her completely. She would sit on the edge of her cot tail, still eyes fixed on the far wall. But after 10 days, something changed. Lisa noticed it by accident. She had tripped while entering, spilling the water tray. Flustered, she looked up and saw Kayla's tail twitch just once, a quick, involuntary flick like a cat's ear swiveling toward a sound. Lisa's heart jumped. She didn't mention it to anyone. Instead, she began testing small things she'd hum while cleaning the tray. She'd wear different colored shirts. She'd leave the flower in a new spot each time, and every time something shifted: a tilt of the head, a softening around the eyes, a subtle ripple down the tail. Still, Lisa told herself not to hope. Maybe it was instinct, not interest. Maybe Kayla was just reacting to stimuli like any caged creature. The doubt gnawed at her, especially when Dr. Harris, the lead xenopsychologist, suggested sedating Kayla for deeper neural scans. "She's not responding," he'd said flatly. "We need data, not patience." That night, Lisa stayed late. The ship was quiet, the stars outside the viewport endless and cold. She sat alone in the dimmed observation room, staring at Kayla, who sat equally still on the other side of the glass. Lisa whispered, "I thought you despised me." Kyla didn't move. Lisa sighed and leaned her forehead against the cool surface. "Everyone thinks you're empty, but I don't think you're waiting." Then something happened. Kayla stood slowly, deliberately. She walked to the glass. Lisa froze. The alien placed one long-fingered hand against the barrier directly opposite where Lisa's own hand rested, and then her tail moved. Not a flick, not a ripple. It uncoiled, fully rising like a question mark, then curling gently at the tip. It swayed soft and rhythmic, almost like a wave. Lisa had read every scrap of data on Kayla's species, or what little they had. The tail, according to fragmented sensor logs from the rescue mission, was tied to emotional expression. Fear made it rigid, aggression made it lash, but happiness made it move first, before anything else. The eyes, the voice, the posture. The tail responded to joy, and now it was moving. Lisa's breath caught. "You're happy," she whispered. Kayla tilted her head slightly, then for the first time she made a sound, a low melodic hum that vibrated through the intercom speaker. It wasn't language, not yet, but it was communication. The next morning, Lisa returned with 2 flowers. She placed one inside, then held the other against the glass. Kayla watched her, then mirrored the gesture, pressing her palm to the barrier where Lisa's hand was. Her tail swayed steadily behind her, calm and bright. Over the following days, trust grew like a slow vine. Lisa began speaking aloud about Earth, about her childhood in Oregon, about how she'd always felt more at home among stars than people. Kayla listened, her golden eyes never leaving Lisa's face. Sometimes she echoed words back in broken tones, her voice rough from disuse but eager. One afternoon, Lisa brought a sketch pad. She drew Kayla's face, then her own, then both of them side by side under a stylized sun. When she showed it through the glass, Kayla made that humming sound again, warmer this time, and traced the image of their joined hands with her fingertip. Harris protested when Lisa requested to remove the glass barrier. "It's too soon," he argued. "We don't know her intentions. Her tail moves when I enter the room." Lisa said firmly, "She mirrors my gestures. She tries to speak. That's not aggression, that's connection." After a tense meeting with the captain, permission was granted under strict supervision. 2 armed guards stood by as the barrier retracted with a soft hiss. Lisa stepped inside, heart pounding. But she kept her movement slow open. Kayla didn't retreat. She stood tall, tail curling once in greeting. Then hesitantly, she reached out and touched Lisa's wrist. Her skin was warm, smooth, and faintly electric. Lisa didn't pull away. Instead, she turned her hand and gently wrapped her fingers around Kayla's. The alien's eyes widened. A soft trill escaped her throat. Her tail lifted high, curling into a loose spiral, a gesture Lisa now recognized as pure delight. From that day on, the observation room became a shared space. Lisa taught Kayla English words using pictures and gestures. Kayla, in turn, began sharing fragments of her own language, clicks and hums that shaped meaning in ways Lisa had never imagined. She learned that Kayla's people communicated as much through movement as through sound, that their tails were emotional compasses always pointing toward truth. Weeks turned into months. The Orion continued its mission, charting unknown sectors, but Lisa and Kayla rarely left each other's side. They ate together, walked the corridors together, watched nebulas bloom together through the observation deck. The crew, once wary, grew accustomed to the sight of the human and the alien moving in quiet harmony. One evening, as the ship drifted near a violet-hued gas giant, Kayla led Lisa to the hydroponic bay. There, among rows of earth plants and alien mosses, Kayla had been tending something new, a vine with silver leaves and tiny blue blossoms. She pointed to it, then to Lisa, then placed her hand over her own chest. "For you," she said, her voice clearer now, shaped by practice. And Lisa smiled. "Thank you." Kayla's tail swayed slow and sure. Then she did something she'd never done before. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead gently to Lisa's. It was a gesture of deep trust among her people. She later explained, a way of saying, "I see you, and you are safe with Melissa." Closed her eyes, feeling the warmth, the quiet strength in that simple touch. She had come to this assignment thinking she would study an alien. Instead, she had found a friend and perhaps something more, something wordless, and growing like the vine between them. Back in the early days, Lisa had believed Kayla's silence meant rejection. She had thought the stillness was disdain, but now she understood sometimes the most powerful feelings aren't spoken, they're shown. In the curl of a tail, the press of a hand, the quiet choice to stay. And Kayla had chosen her. As the stars wheeled outside and the ship hummed its steady song, Lisa reached out and took Kayla's hand again. No words were needed. The tail said it all, swaying soft and full of joy. Months passed aboard the Orion, and the bond between Lisa and Kayla deepened like roots in rich soil. They no longer needed words to understand each other. A glance, a tilt of the head, a gentle sway of the tail said enough. The crew had long stopped, watching them with suspicion. Now they smiled when they passed the pair in the corridor or saw them sharing a meal in the mess hall. Kayla had even begun helping in the hydroponics bay, her long fingers surprisingly deft at pruning and planting. She spoke more now, her voice soft but steady, and she laughed, sometimes a sound like wind, through crystal chimes that made Lisa's chest feel warm. But peace never lasts long in deep space. One morning, the ship's alarm blared, a sharp, urgent tone that sent everyone running to their stations. Lisa was in the lab calibrating a scanner when the red lights flashed. She dropped her tools and sprinted toward the bridge. Kayla was already there, standing silently near the rear console, her tail coiled, tight with tension. Captain Ellis stood at the center, his face grim on the main view screen. A massive vessel hung in the void, its hull jagged and dark, like the carapace of some ancient predator. It bore no known markings, no signal, no identification, just appeared out of nowhere, he said. Voice low, "They're hailing us." A distorted voice crackled over the comm. "Not human, not machine." It hissed and clicked in a rhythm that made Kayla flinch. She stepped back, one hand pressed to her chest, her golden eyes wide with something Lisa had never seen before, fear. "They speak the old tongue," she whispered. The captain turned to her. "What do they want?" Kayla swallowed hard. They want. Messalence fell over the bridge. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Lisa moved. Without thinking, she stepped between Kayla and the view screen as if her small human frame could shield the alien woman from whatever threat loomed outside. Tell them. No, Lisa said firmly. The captain hesitated, then nodded. Open channel. This is Captain Ellis of the research vessel Orion. We mean no harm, but we will not surrender anyone under our protection. The response was immediate. The alien ship fired a warning shot, a pulse of violet energy that missed the Orion by meters, but shook the hull. With its force alarm screamed again. Damage to outer shielding sector 7, they're scanning us. The comms officer reported they're looking for something specific for her. Kayla said quietly, They know I'm here. Lisa turned to her. Who are they, Kayla's? Tail drooped slightly. They are the Virex, once warriors of my people, now hunters. They believe those who survive the Great Silence are cursed. They take us not to kill, but to study, to dissect, to silence us forever. Lisa's blood ran cold. She grabbed Kayla's hand. You're not going anywhere. But the Virex ship began moving closer. Its weapons charging the Orion was no match. It was built for science. Not war shields were failing, engines strained under evasive maneuvers. We can't outrun them, the pilot said grimly. Then we hide. Lisa said suddenly. How? The captain asked. The nebula. Lisa pointed to the star chart on the side screen, the Crimson Veil. It's dense with ion storms and magnetic interference. If we dive in, they won't be able to track us visually or with sensors. It's suicide, the engineer protested. The radiation alone could fry our systems. It's our only chance. Kayla said, her voice calm now. Her tail straightened with resolve. If they catch me, they'll come for others. Like me, I am not the last. The captain stared at her, then at Lisa, then nodded. Take us in. The Orion banked hard and plunged into the swirling red clouds of the Crimson Veil. Lightning crackled across the hull. The ship groaned like a living thing under. Stress lights flickered, consoles sparked, but they held course deeper and deeper until the Virex ship vanished from sensors. For 3 days they drifted in the storm. Silent engines off, life support on minimal power. The crew moved like ghosts, whispering. Only when necessary outside the nebula raged, but inside the Orion held its breath. Kayla stayed close to Lisa. They shared a bunk in the crew quarters wrapped in thermal blankets. Kayla's tail curled gently around Lisa's waist, not for comfort, but for connection, as if to say, I am still here on. The 4th day the storm calmed. The sensors came back online. The Virex ship was gone. We lost them. The comms officer said with relief. But Kayla shook her head. They will search. They always search. So, what do we do? Lisa asked. Kayla looked at her with eyes full of sorrow and strength. I must leave. No, Lisa said instantly. Listen. Kayla took both of Lisa's hands in hers. My presence endangers this ship and everyone on it. The Virex will not stop. They will follow my trail across star systems. I cannot let that happen. You're not alone anymore, Lisa said, voice breaking. I know, she said softly. That is why this hurts. That night they stood on the observation deck, the nebula behind them glowing like embers. Kayla wore a small survival pack the engineers had cobbled together with rations, a water recycler, and a beacon, set to a private frequency. Only Lisa knew. The captain had approved a shuttle drop to a nearby habitable moon. It was risky, but the best chance. Kayla had to disappear. You'll contact me. Lisa said, not a question but a plea, when it is safe. Kayla promised. Then she did something unexpected. She leaned in and pressed her lips gently to Lisa's forehead, a gesture deeper than words among her people. It meant, you are my heart and I carry you with me. Lisa held her tightly, memorizing the feel of her. The warmth, the quiet hum in her chest. The shuttle launched at dawn, silent and swift. It vanished into the starfield, leaving Lisa standing on the empty deck, her hands clenched at her sides, her eyes dry but aching. Weeks passed. The Orion resumed its mission, but something was missing. The halls felt too quiet. The hydroponic bay too still. Lisa went through the motions. She ran scans, she filed reports, she even tended the silver vine Kayla had planted. It had grown taller now, twining around a support beam, its blue blossoms glowing faintly in the low light. One evening as she watered the plant, a soft chime sounded from her private console, a signal encrypted with Kayla's signature. Her heart leapt. She opened it. A short message appeared, coordinates and 2 words, wait for. Melissa smiled for the first time in weeks. She began preparing, not with panic, but with purpose. She gathered supplies, modified a long-range beacon, studied star charts. She didn't tell the captain, not yet, but she knew what she would do when the time came. Because Kayla had not said goodbye. She had said wait. And Lisa would wait. But not forever. She would find her. Months later, the Orion received new orders. A distress call from the Outer Rim. A research outpost under attack by unknown forces. The captain prepared for departure. But Lisa requested shore leave, citing personal reasons. He granted it without question. That night, she boarded a small civilian freighter bound for the coordinates in Kayla's message. Her bag held only essentials, and a single blue blossom pressed between pages of a journal. As the freighter jumped to warp, Lisa looked out at the stars, not as a scientist now, but as someone chasing a promise. Somewhere out there, Kayla was waiting. And this time, Lisa would be the one to cross the distance. The journey took 17 days. The freighter dropped her at a dusty trading port on the edge of neutral space. The air was thin, the sky a pale orange. She followed the coordinates to a hidden cave system in the mountains inside. She found signs of recent habitation. A sleeping mat, a small fire pit, and on a stone shelf a single silver leaf, then a sound behind her. She turned. Kayla stood in the entrance, sunlight catching the edges of her obsidian skin. Her tail lifted slowly, curling at the tip in that familiar rhythm of joy. You came, Lisa whispered. Kayla stepped forward until they were close enough to feel each other's breath. I knew you would. No glass, no barriers, no fear. Just them. Lisa reached out and touched Kayla's face. Your tail moved first. Kayla smiled. It always does when you're near. They sat together. As the sun set outside the cave, sharing water and silence, the kind that no longer meant emptiness but peace. The Virex were still out there. The galaxy still vast and dangerous. But for now, in this quiet place, they were safe and happy. Because sometimes, love isn't loud. It's in the quiet choice to return to each other across light years, in the sway of a tale, and the courage to wait and the courage to come. And as the stars blinked awake above them, Lisa leaned her head on Kayla's shoulder and knew she was exactly where she belonged. Life on Alara settled into a rhythm as steady as the river that curled around their cabin. Mornings began with the scent of roasted root tea and the soft hum Kayla made while tending her garden. Lisa would sit on the porch, sketching star charts or writing in her journal. Her notes no longer just scientific observations, but stories of 2 women who defied fear. With quiet courage, they shared chores, shared silence, shared dreams that needed no words because their hands and hearts spoke clearly enough. But the universe has a way of testing peace. One afternoon, a small transport ship landed in the clearing beyond the trees. Not a military vessel, not a smuggler, but a diplomatic courier marked with the insignia of the United Earth Alliance. Lisa recognized it instantly. Her old life knocking softly at the edge of her new one, she met the visitor at the tree line, a woman in a crisp blue uniform. Her name was Claire, and she carried a sealed datapad. Lisa Cooper, she said with a respectful nod. We've been looking for you. Lisa stiffened. I left that name behind. Claire smiled gently. Not to bring you back to the Orion, but to ask for your help. Kayla appeared silently behind Lisa, her tail low but alert. Her golden eyes watchful. The Virex have changed. Claire explained they've opened dialogue with the Alliance. They claim a new understanding, but they refuse to speak to anyone except you 2. Specifically, why? Lisa asked. Because you are the first bonded pair. They say you hold the key to a truce. Kayla stepped forward. What do they want? A summit, Claire said on neutral ground. A moon called Viridia. It's small, quiet, and shielded from outside scans. They want to talk. Not as hunters, but as seekers. Lisa looked at Kayla. This could be a trap, or it could be the beginning of something real. Kayla replied, her tail lifting slightly with cautious hope. They agreed to go, not as representatives, but as witnesses to truth. They packed light, took only what they needed, and boarded the courier. Ship Claire promised no weapons, no surveillance, just a table and a chance. Viridia was a world of mist and moss, its surface veiled in perpetual fog. The summit site was a stone pavilion open to the sky but hidden from orbit by dense cloud cover. 3. Virex waited there, not in armor but in simple gray robes, their masks removed for the first time. Lisa saw their faces, sharp, angular features, eyes dark and unreadable but not hostile. The leader stepped forward. His name was Torin. He bowed slightly. "To Kayla you returned," he said. "I did not run." Kayla answered, "I chose to come." Torin's gaze shifted to Lisa. "And you human. You stood with her when no one else would." "I saw her as a person, not a problem," Lisa said simply. Torin nodded, then gestured to the stone table. "Let us speak." They sat, and for hours they talked not of war or purity, but of loss, of the great silence that had swept through Kayla's people generations ago. A plague that killed not the body, but the will to connect it. Left survivors, hollow and afraid, so they turned inward. Built walls, built laws, built fear into doctrine. "We thought bonding with another species was weakness," Torin admitted. "But your light proved otherwise. When you glowed together in the station, we felt it even. Through our armor, it was not sickness, it was harmony." Kayla leaned forward, "Then help us spread it. How be letting others see that connection is not betrayal. It is evolution." Torin was silent for a long time. Then he reached into his robe and placed a small crystal on the table. It pulsed faintly with silver light. "This is a resonance seed," he said. "It carries the echo of your bond. If we plant it in our sanctuaries, it will teach our young that love across difference is not only possible, but sacred." Lisa looked at Kayla, who gave a small nod. "We will help you," Lisa said. The talks lasted 3 days. By the end, the Virex had drafted a declaration of openness, a promise to end the hunts, to welcome the lost ones back. Not as outcasts, but as teachers. On the final evening, Torin walked with Lisa and Kayla along the misty shore of Viridia's central lake. "You have given us a second chance," he said quietly. "Do not think we take it lightly." "We don't expect perfection," Lisa replied. "Just honesty. Honesty is harder than war," he admitted. Kayla touched his arm lightly. "Your tail will learn to move again in time." Torin looked down at his own tail, stiff and still for so long, and for the first time in decades, it gave the faintest twitch back on Alara weeks. Later life resumed, but it felt different, larger, as if their quiet love now carried a quiet purpose. They began receiving messages from former outcasts from Virex youth, seeking guidance from human scientists, curious about cross-species bonding. Lisa and Kayla answered each one not as heroes but as friends. They also received a surprise visitor. One rainy morning, when a familiar voice called from the path, Lisa turned and saw Dale the smuggler pilot standing under a wide leaf, his coat dripping. "I thought you might need this," he said. Handing her a small box. Inside was a fully charged long-range beacon and a note from Captain Ellis of the Orion, simply saying, "We're proud of you." Lisa hugged him tight. "Thank you." Dale nodded to Kayla too. "You, too, changed more than you know." As the seasons turned, the silver vine by their door grew tall enough to arch over the path, its blue blossoms glowing brighter each night. Lisa began teaching local children about stars and soil, while Kayla held quiet gatherings for those learning to trust their own emotions again. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Kayla placed a hand on Lisa's stomach. "You feel it too?" she whispered. Lisa's eyes widened. Yes, it was early, barely a whisper of life. But already, they felt it, a new rhythm joining theirs, not human, not Virex, but something entirely new. A child of two worlds, a living bridge. They did not announce it to the colony. Not yet. They kept it close, like a secret song. Only they could hear, but their joy was impossible to hide. Kayla's tail moved constantly now in wide, gentle arcs like a slow dance, and Lisa found herself smiling at nothing at all. "Oh, night under the twin moons," Lisa asked. "Do you think she'll have your eyes? Or my laugh?" Kayla rested, her head on Lisa's shoulder. "She will have both, and a tail that moves first when she sees us." They sat in silence, watching the river flow. Stars reflected in its surface, endless and calm. The galaxy was still vast, still full of unknowns, but they were no longer just surviving. They were building something that would last longer than fear, longer than silence, longer than war. They were building a future where love was not the exception but the rule. And as the wind rustled through the silver leaves, Lisa took Kayla's hand and knew that every risk, every tear, every moment of doubt had led them here, to this quiet moment of perfect belonging. Not because they were special, but because they chose each other again and again. And that choice echoed louder than any weapon, any law. Any old story of division, it echoed in the sway of a tail, in the warmth of a hand, in the quiet hum of a heart saying, "I am here with you," and that was everything. The cave in the red mountains of Kesser 7 became their sanctuary for weeks. They lived simply drawing water from an underground spring, foraging for edible fungi, and tending a small garden. Kayla planted with seeds she had carried from the Orion. Lisa learned to read the wind for storms, to listen for the low growl of rock wolves that prowled the lower slopes, and to recognize the soft hum Kayla made when she was content. It was a quiet life, but full in a way Lisa had never known before. Kyla taught her more of her language, not just words but meanings woven into gesture and breath. She showed Lisa how to press her palm to the earth to feel the pulse of the planet, how to sing to the silver vine so it would bloom faster, and how to braid strands of moss into a token of trust. Lisa, in turn, shared stories of Earth, of oceans and cities, of snow and summer nights filled with fireflies. Kayla listened with rapt attention, her golden eyes reflecting the firelight, her tail curling gently around Lisa's wrist as if to hold the words close. But peace on the edge of known space is fragile. One morning Kayla froze while gathering water. Her head tilted, her tail stiffening like a drawn wire. She dropped the canteen and grabbed Lisa's arm. "Come now." "What is it?" Lisa asked. "They found us. No explanation, no panic. Just urgency." They packed what they could in under a minute, the silver vine they could not take, but Kayla pressed a single seed into Lisa's palm. "Keep it safe," she said. They fled deeper into the mountains using narrow passes and hidden trails. Kayla moved like shadow, sure-footed and silent. Lisa followed as best she could, her lungs burning, her boots slipping on loose stone. They did not speak. They did not need to. The fear was shared like breath be nightfall. They reached a ruined outpost half buried in rock and sand. It had been abandoned for decades, solar panels cracked, comms dish rusted, but the lower levels were intact. Kayla activated a hidden panel in the floor, revealing a ladder that led down into darkness. "An old listening post," she explained. "Used during the border wars, my people built it. It is shielded." They descended into a chamber lit by soft bioluminescent moss. On the walls, shelves held preserved rations, data crystals, and a small medical kit. Kayla sealed the entrance behind them, then slumped against the wall, her chest heaving. Lisa knelt beside her. "Are you hurt?" "No, just tired," Kayla whispered. "They are closer than I thought." "How do you know?" "I feel them in my bones." She touched her temple. "A resonance only my kind can sense. They are scanning the region with harmonic pulses meant to stir our nervous systems like a bell." Lisa frowned. "So they can track you through your biology." "Yes, and if they get close enough, they can force a response, make me reveal myself. Then we stay hidden," Lisa said. "For how long?" Kayla asked softly. "They will not leave. They will burn the forests, flood the caves, starve the land until I show myself. There has to be another way." Kayla looked at her, then at the data crystals on the shelf. One of them glowed faintly blue. She picked it up. "This contains old battle codes from the Silence War. If we can reach the derelict station in orbit, we might be able to send a false signal, make them think I fled system." "That station is crawling with scavengers," Lisa said. "Then we go at night." 2 days later, under cover of a sandstorm, they made their way to the spaceport, a crumbling ring of metal and concrete where rusted freighters leaned like drunkards against the sky. Kayla had traded a vial of bioluminescent serum for passage on a smuggler's skiff. The pilot, a grizzled human named Dale, asked no questions. As long as the credits were real. The skiff lifted off, shuddering. Through the storm and into the black, the station hung above them, a skeletal ring of dead metal spinning slowly in orbit. It had been a research hub. Once now, it was a graveyard of forgotten science. They docked in a dark bay, the air thin and cold. Inside, the corridors were littered with debris, but Kyla navigated them with uncanny precision. She had been here before, she admitted, during her escape from the Virex long ago. They reached the central comms array, its systems long dead. But Kayla worked quickly, rewiring panels, bypassing fried circuits with tools from her pack. Lisa stood guard, listening to the creaks and groans of the station, feeling every shadow like a threat. "It is ready," Kayla said finally. She inserted the data crystal and activated the transmitter. A burst of coded energy shot into the void carrying a false signature, a ghost of Kayla's biorhythm heading toward the outer rim. They will chase it for weeks, Lisa said, long enough for us to disappear again. But as they turned to leave, a new sound echoed down the hall. Boots on metal voices speaking in clipped sharp tones. Virex, how did they find us so fast? Lisa whispered. They must have traced the energy spike from our activation. Kayla's tail coiled tight. They are already inside. There was no time to run. No time to hide. The corridor ahead filled with armored figures, their faces hidden behind smooth black masks. Their weapons humming with charged plasma. Kayla stepped in front of Lisa, her hands raised, not in surrender but in warning. You have no claim over me. I am not cursed, I am free. One of the Virex stepped forward, his voice distorted by his mask. You carry the silent sickness, you endanger the purity of our lineage. You will be cleansed. Then, do it to me, Lisa said, stepping out from behind Kayla. Kayla grabbed her arm. No, Lisa shook her head. If you want her, you go through. Me, the Virex, hesitated. They had not expected a human to interfere. Kayla's eyes flickered with something fierce. She turned to Lisa and placed a hand on her chest, then on her own heart. Then she whispered a single word in her native tongue. Lisa did not understand it, but she felt it like a spark in her blood. Suddenly, Kayla's skin began to glow faintly, a soft, silver light spreading from her fingertips to her tail. The Virex recoiled as if burned. What is this? One hissed. She is not alone, Kayla said, her voice ringing with power. The silence you fear is not sickness. It is evolution. We have learned to bond, not just with our own, but with others who see us as more than monsters. The light grew brighter, filling the corridor. Not blinding, but revealing, showing the Virex their own reflections in the walls, their rigid armor. Their fear. Lisa felt warmth spread through her where Kayla had touched her, and to her astonishment, her own skin began to shimmer faintly. Not silver, but gold, like Kayla's eyes. The bond is real. Kayla said, they can feel it now. The lead Virex lowered his weapon slightly. What have you done? I have chosen, Lisa said quietly, and she chose me. Long silence stretched, then the Virex leader turned away. Stand down. What? Kayla asked. You are no longer what we hunted, he said. The resonance is different. You carry something new. Something we do not understand. Perhaps we were wrong. They retreated the way they came, leaving Lisa and Kayla alone in the glowing corridor. Lisa looked at her hands still shimmering. Are we safe now? For now, Kayla said. But the galaxy is changing because of us. They returned to the skiff not as fugitives, but as something new. Bearers of a bond that defied old laws and ancient fears. Dale the pilot said nothing when he saw their glowing skin. He just nodded and set course for a neutral colony far from Virex. Space on the journey. Kayla explained that her people had long believed emotional connection weakened them, made them vulnerable. But the truth was the opposite. Isolation had made them brittle. Love made them strong. And you? Lisa said, smiling, made me. Brave. Kayla's tail curled around her waist as it always did when they were together. I did not save you, Lisa. You saved me by seeing me. Weeks later, they settled on a small moon called Ilara, covered in forests and clear lakes. The colony there welcomed outsiders. As long as they worked and respected the land, they built a cabin near a river using salvaged metal and local wood. Kayla planted a new silver vine by the door, and this time Lisa helped her. They were not hidden. They were simply free news. Came slowly through traders and data bursts. The Virex had withdrawn from hunting operations. Some even spoke of a new faction among them, seeking to understand the bonded ones. Like Kayla, Lisa continued her research. But now it was different. She studied, not just alien biology, but connection. How trust could rewrite instinct, how love could be a language all its own. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching twin moons rise, Kayla leaned her head on Lisa's shoulder. Do you ever miss the Orion? Lisa asked. Sometimes, she said, but I do not miss being alone. Lisa took her hand. Your tail is moving. Kayla smiled. It always does when I am happy. And I am happy with you. The stars above were countless, endless, and full of unknowns. But here on this quiet moon, with the river singing below and the silver vine blooming softly in the night, they had all they needed, not because the danger was gone, but because they faced it together, and that was enough. The first snow on Alara fell softly like feathers from a silent sky. Lisa watched it from the cabin window, one hand resting on her rounded belly. The child within moved often now, a gentle flutter that made her smile. Kayla knelt beside her, pressing her palm to Lisa's stomach, her golden eyes closed in quiet focus. She dreams of stars, Kayla whispered. Lisa laughed softly. How do you know? I feel the rhythm. It is the same as when you showed me your sketches of the Orion. Months had passed since the summit on Viridia, and the world had begun to change in quiet ways. Messages arrived weekly from Virex enclaves where young ones now practiced bonding exercises with plants, animals, even humans in controlled settings. Schools had opened that taught both old traditions and new connections, and on 3 colony worlds, silver vines now grew in public gardens, their blue blossoms a symbol of unity. But change also brought resistance. One morning a warning came not through official channels but through a coded burst from a former Orion crewmate. A splinter group of Virex traditionalists calling themselves the Pure Silence had declared Lisa and Kayla abominations. They claimed the child would be a corruption of bloodlines, a mistake that must be undone. Their gathering support, Torrens' message read. They move in shadows, but their reach is long, be careful. Kayla read the words and her tail went rigid. Not with fear, but with resolve. They will not touch her. Lisa placed a hand on her arm. We won't let them, but we can't hide forever. No, Kayla said, we will not hide. We will show them what they fear is beautiful. They decided to hold a gathering, not secret, not defiant, but open, an invitation to any who wished to witness the truth of their bond on the day of the winter solstice, when Alara's twin suns aligned and the river ran silver with reflected light. News spread quickly. People came from nearby settlements. Humans, Virex, mixed families, even a few curious traders from the outer rim. They built a circle of stones near the river, and in its center Kayla planted the resonant seed Torren had given them. It pulsed faintly beneath the soil like a sleeping heart. As the suns rose, Lisa stood with Kayla before the crowd, not on a stage but among them, equal and unafraid. This is not a performance, Lisa said, her voice clear and calm. This is our life. Kayla placed a hand on Lisa's belly and spoke in her native tongue, then translated softly. She is coming soon, and she is already. Loved. A murmur moved through the crowd, not of doubt but of wonder. Then from the tree line a figure emerged, hooded and cloaked, moving with purpose. The crowd parted silently, sensing tension. Kayla stepped in front of Lisa, her tail raised, not in threat, but in warning. The figure stopped and lowered the hood. It was a young Virex female, her eyes wide, her hands trembling. I am Nira, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I was sent by the Pure Silence to watch, to report. Kayla did not speak, just waited. Nira swallowed hard. But I saw you from the ridge last night. You were singing to the child in your light. It was warm, it did not burn. It healed. She stepped forward, tears glistening on her dark cheeks. I do not want to be their weapon anymore. Kayla opened her arms and Nira fell into them, sobbing. The crowd watched in silence as Kayla held her gently, her tail curling around the girl like a shield. You are safe here, Kayla said. In that moment the resonant seed beneath the stones flared to life, a soft silver light spreading through the ground up the trunks of nearby trees along the river's edge. It did not blind, it revealed, showing every face, every tear, every hope reflected in its glow. Even those who had come skeptical felt it, a warmth in their chest, a loosening of old knots they had carried for years. Lisa looked at Kayla, and without words they both knew this was the turning point. Not through force but through openness. After the gathering, Nira stayed. She helped in the garden, learned Lisa's earth songs, and taught Kayla new Virex lullabies for the coming child. She spoke of the Pure Silence's camps, their fear, their isolation, and how they twisted old teachings to justify cruelty. They are not evil, Kayla said one evening. As they sat by the fire, they are afraid, and fear makes monsters of good people. We can reach them, Lisa said, if we keep showing them another way. Weeks later another message arrived, this time from the heart of Virex territory. A council of elders had disbanded. The Pure Silence declared their actions a betrayal of true tradition and offered amnesty to any who renounced violence. Torn's note was simple. The light spreads faster than we thought as winter deepened. Lisa's thyme grew near the cabin, was prepared with soft furs, clean water, and bundles of healing moss. Kayla rarely left her side, her tail now in constant gentle motion, a living metronome of calm. The night the child came. The twin moons hung full and bright, the river sang below, and the silver vine bloomed all at once, its blue flowers casting a soft glow through the windows. It was a long night filled with pain and breath and quiet strength. Lisa held Kayla's hand through every contraction, and Kayla hummed the old songs, her voice steady and warm. When the first cry pierced the air, it was unlike any sound they had heard. Not human, not Virex, but something new. A clear, pure note that made the resonant seed in the garden pulse brightly. Kayla caught the child in her hands, and for a moment the whole world seemed to hold its breath. "She is perfect," Lisa whispered, tears streaming down her face. Kayla looked at her daughter, then at Lisa, her eyes full of awe, her tail curling high in joy. "She has your eyes and my skin, and a heartbeat that sings." They wrapped the baby in a blanket woven from silver vine fibers and named her Elira, a blend of Alara and Kayla's ancestral name for starlight. The days that followed, visitors came not to question but to celebrate. They brought gift seeds from their homeworlds, songs from their mothers' stories of hope. They placed their hands on Elira's tiny chest and felt the same warmth that had changed them all. Nira stayed on as a guardian of sorts, teaching Elira the old ways while Lisa taught her of earth oceans and kindness. One evening, as the three of them sat on the porch watching the stars, Elira gurgled happily in Kayla's arms, her tiny tail already giving soft flicks when Lisa smiled at her. "She knows." "You," Lisa said. Kayla nodded. "She moves first for you too." They did not know what the future held. Wars might return, old fears might rise again, but they had built something stronger than walls. They had built a home not just of wood and stone, but of trust and choice. And in that home a child would grow who knew no borders, no divisions, only love in all its forms. As the wind rustled through the glowing blossoms, Lisa leaned into Kayla's shoulder and felt the steady rhythm of their joined hearts. The galaxy was vast and wild, but here in this quiet corner of it, they had found everything. Not because they were fearless, but because they chose love, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard, and that choice echoed in every breath, every touch, every sway of a tail that moved first for joy, for family, for each other, and that was enough.